Good morning, Ralph, and welcome to Follow the Money.
Yes, good morning, Robert.
Thanks for joining us this morning. Okay, let's get to it, Ralph. Last week in Cavite, a motorcycle taxi rider was killed, and within hours, his passenger had allegedly taken over his digital identity and e-wallet to allegedly extort his own family. Now, from a security professional's lens, how does a murder turn into a digital heist that fast, that quick?
Yeah, first off, that is a very alarming development when it comes to digital hijacking, digital identity hijacking particularly. Now, the flaws or the gaps that we've seen in this particular scenario is one, the KYC process of these particular platforms.
Yeah.
There have been patterns and there have been instances where someone who is banned from platform A can actually transition to platform B without any penalty or any banning of themselves. And second is we have seen that there is actually a need of a national digital ledger for this particular scenarios to be, let's say, have an apt intervention and would not be repeated.
So that all, let's say, platform apps can have access to this? Basically, like, are you looking at this like the banking system? Whenever there's a client, we have an external monitoring agency, like a credit rating monitoring agency, to see whether the client that they're who is loaning or anything is in good standing or not, something like that?
Yes, that's exactly.
We don't have it?
Yeah, we actually don't have it right now. What we have are fragmented efforts, fragmented initiatives, and from a security professional standpoint, especially a risk professional standpoint, that is very high risk, especially it has already manifested in this particular scenario where the digital hijacking is now seen in the physical aspect of things. And also, it even transferred into a crime against the family of the victim.
Now, the PNP and the DICT have warned about a thriving black market for rented rider accounts. Now, why are the biometric check-ins of these multi-billion peso apps so easy for criminals to bypass? You're mentioning, an important factor, the KYC part of this process.
Yes, the KYC part is...
You know your customer,
yeah,
right?
the know customer process is much to be desired for. There is even a chance of, a very basic chance of loopholing the system by just covering your face and wearing a cap and pose as the identity of the victim. Now that is I think is a very low barrier when it comes to combating these types of crimes.
Yeah. But it also goes both ways. Before, people were just saying the risk was with the customers because they don't really know who the riders are, whether it's a motorcycle rider or car taxi. But this time it happened to the rider himself, who was a victim by the customer. So it has to go both ways. So in terms of information of the rider and also the customer, how can we better secure that?
Well, as we have seen in this particular scenario, if you do not hold the keys to the data, you actually not the owner of any of the data particularly, and any intervention or any measure to actually combat or neutralize these particular scenarios is going to be very difficult in the long run. Now, the integrating the customer and also the rider's information should be already included in the national digital ledger that we are actually proposing.
So, sino yung mga stakeholders dito, Ralph? Who should be accountable to everything that, the processes, the systems, so that both parties, both the customers and also those who are, using this as, it's income generating for them, the ride hailing providers. So, who should be accountable? Who are the stakeholders? And what can be done to really fix this problem?
The good thing about that is we already have existing laws for this, and the Data Privacy Act and even the cybercrime, Anti-Cybercrime Act. Now, what we're talking about is PIIs, or personal informations for this particular cohorts. If this is the system that we're going to build, it's very simple. The content is owned by the government. DICT is one. CICC can be, NTC can be also be a partner of this. But the context, what is it going to be used in weekly and daily, and as you said, it can be of commercial use, it should be held by the platforms themselves.
But now, with all these things happening, hindi pa ba napag-uusapan yan? How to have this information, the communication that, both ways, the apps, the government agencies na dapat mag-monitor nito to ensure safety for both parties?
Meron naman ng mag-uusap, meron ng initiatives na ganito dahil nga meron ng batas na in place. Ang problema nga lang natin, naunahan na din tayo ng ganitong klase na senaryo at we really need to catch up. And most of the conversations are very much fragmented, right? If you're talking about cybersecurity, if you're talking about physical security, even talking about personal security, masyadong fragmented, iba-iba ang approaches. We really need, that's why our proposal is really need to have a national digital ledger to actually police or actually control and actually contain these particular alarming situations.
Because usually yung complaints ng mga netizens natin is that why is it always that we are reactive more than proactive looking at all these, especially technology, ang bilis ang change ng technology today.
Yeah. To give credit where credit is due, we can look at it as at least we're really trying to catch up with technology. There is a saying, technology will always lead and policy will always follow. It will, especially right now, it's going to be impossible right now for any policy to be 2 or 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
But it is worth looking into. It is worth putting resources into to actually try to forecast where the technology is going. Right now, if you could actually imagine, the scenario that we have right now with the rider being attacked by a customer is unheard of before all of this. So that's what we're actually trying to ascertain and address and actually articulate na kailangan talaga ng ledger.
Because I mentioned that because ride-hailing networks right now are scaling. Marami ng mga ride-hailing apps out there that people can use. But how should state regulators and the private platforms themselves legally define and share the responsibility of verifying user credentials and ensuring the public safety? Because that's where it actually starts.
Yes.
Because all the information is there, should be there. Ano ba yung kulang?
I think the API, I think there's a API for the non-techie, let's say, the layman this is actually just basically the language that is used between apps. So if app A can actually talk to app B and app B can actually talk to app C, they can actually learn from each other and actually figure out, as with the terrific or an exquisite system of the banking system that we have right now, banking industry is right now, is actually doing. If you can actually execute and apply the best practices of what the banks have already been doing, even with the telcos, right? In this particular scenario, there's a high probability that these types of crimes will.
But ano pa bang kulang? Should there be, like, let's say, for the KYC, because now it's face-to-face, the rider and the customer, kailangan ba yung mga psychological tests and all that to ensure that, let's say, either the customer or the rider has good psychological background for them to be able to, one, provide the service, and syempre yung customer din, because hindi alam ng rider who the customers are, So parang, where's the balance here? Ano bang dapat nating gawin?
It's like a catch-22
yes,
if you're saying, right? But that's a very good point, right? Using a ledger, using a database as a starting point, as a foundation, creates so many slew of solutions. One is that's a very physical and a very practical solution already of having let's say a neuropsychological test for riders, have a neuropsychological test even for those that are have lots of use for this particular. And this will only happen I'm going to just to go back. If we actually have a database, a ledger, a national identity ledger, particularly for these types of cohorts or these types of platforms.
Because kasabay ng problema na to, no, Ralph, we see the LTO has noted that its driver registry is operating now without active maintenance from its legacy contractor over an ongoing transition dispute. Now, strategically, how can the government resolve these vendor lock-in issues without compromising public data safety?
Well, that's a very tricky, that's a slippery slope to be in, right? The challenge with LTO, with most of local government, means of national government
And the use of
agencies,
third-party
yes, and the
vendors.
use of
Yes.
third-party vendors is I'm just going to go back what I said earlier, to actually have a perfect or a optimal combination and integration of both private and public. Public government should hold the content.
Yeah.
That is unquestioned. And but the context, the monitors, the stop gaps, and even the trends, analyzing the trends, should be with them, because they're the ones who's using it daily and weekly, and even, as I said, this commercially being.
But do we
functioning.
really need third-party international vendors? Kaya ba natin gumawa here locally? But before you answer that, Ralph, we'll just take a short break. And when we come back, Congress moves to protect Filipino children online and the AI bill that could reshape our tech industry. Keep following the money.
Hi, I am Brian Himor, 21 years old. I'm from Far Eastern University taking BS in Biology, major in Systematic. I'm a really big fan of B Season 2. Make sure to root for me. Tamarao's fight!
Welcome back to Follow the Money. Still with us is Ralph Frondoza, Strategic Risk Consultant at Zerolytics. Now, Ralph, before the break, I was asking, why the need for third-party international vendors? Wala ba tayong local companies here that are very good, that can provide that kind of service and keep the data within the Philippines, hindi yung outside or cloud? Di ba, nakaproblema rin yan with the eGov app.
That's a very good point. When it comes to talent, technical talent, kayang-kaya natin sumabay sa labas. No? We're world-class, we're top-class with that. Ang problema natin is yung actual infrastructure. No, yun lang talaga, that's one. And because of the infrastructure, we don't have the basic infrastructure for this, we cannot compete when it comes to policy. So it is understandable for particular national security agencies, national agencies, particularly LTO, to find to outsource, specifically to other companies.